A small boat moving fast across open water, a drone flying low, almost invisible. Individually, they don't look dangerous, but together they change the entire battlefield. Because modern warfare is no longer just about tanks and fighter jets. It is about small, cheap, fast threats that appear without warning, and here's the problem. Most traditional military systems were never built to deal with this. Large warships are powerful, but they are slow to react. Fighter jets are fast, but they are not designed to chase small targets close to the ground or water. So what happens when dozens of these threats appear at once? Speed boats rushing in from different directions. Drones flying low, hard to detect, even harder to track. This is called saturation, and saturation creates chaos, because even advanced systems can be overwhelmed not by power but by numbers. Now think about this. A single fast boat does not need to destroy a warship. It only needs to get close enough to create risk. A single drone does not need to dominate the sky. It only needs to slip through once. And that changes everything, because now the battlefield is no longer about strength. It is about reaction time. How fast can you see the threat? How quickly can you respond? And can you stop it before it multiplies? Most systems fail at this stage. They react too late or they focus on the wrong target. And by the time they adjust, the damage is already done. So the question becomes critical. What kind of weapon can handle speed, unpredictability, and multiple targets at once? Because stopping one threat is not enough. You need something that can hunt them one after another without slowing down. And that's where a very different kind of machine enters the battlefield. Now imagine a machine built for one purpose. Not to fight large battles, but to hunt small, fast targets continuously. This is where the AH-64 Apache changes the equation. Because the Apache is not just a helicopter, it is a flying hunter. Everything about its design is built around one idea: find the threat before it becomes a problem, then destroy it immediately. First, mobility. Unlike jets, the Apache does not need speed alone, it needs control. It can fly low, very low, just above the ground or water. This allows it to stay hidden, to approach without being seen, and to position itself exactly where it needs to be. Now add maneuverability. The Apache can turn quickly, adjust direction in seconds, and track moving targets without losing focus, which is critical when your targets are not fixed. They are moving, changing direction, trying to escape, but mobility alone is not enough. The real power comes from integration. Sensors, weapons, pilot systems, all working together in real time. The Apache does not just fly into combat, it processes the battlefield. It sees multiple targets, prioritizes threats, and prepares to engage almost instantly. And here's what makes it different. It does not rely on one type of weapon. It carries multiple options, each designed for a specific type of target, which means it can adapt mid-fight. Boat, engage, drone, engage, multiple threats, engage one after another without needing to reset. Without needing to withdraw. This is not a platform that reacts slowly. It is built for continuous action, and that creates a major advantage. Because while other systems are still identifying the threat, the Apache is already moving toward it, and once it locks on, the next phase happens very fast. Because seeing the target is only the beginning. The real question is, how does it destroy them in seconds? Before the Apache can destroy anything, it has to see it. And in modern combat, that is not easy, because the targets it faces are designed to be hard to detect. Small drones fly low, fast boats blend into waves, heat, clutter, and movement create confusion. So the question is critical. How do you find something that is trying not to be seen? This is where the Apache becomes more than a helicopter. It becomes a sensor platform. At the center of this system is its targeting suite. One of the most important components is the APG-78 longbow radar. This radar can scan the battlefield, identify multiple targets, and track them simultaneously, even when they are moving, even when visibility is poor. But radar is only part of the picture, because not every threat is easy to detect with radar alone. That is why the Apache also uses thermal imaging, heat-based vision. This allows it to see targets based on temperature, not just shape. So even if a drone is small or a boat is partially hidden, its heat signature gives it away. And now something important happens. The Apache begins to build a picture, not just of one target, but of the entire environment, where threats are coming from, how fast they are moving, which ones matter most. This is where detection becomes decision. Because seeing everything is not enough, you have to choose what to engage first, and that decision must happen quickly, because in a high-speed environment, delays are dangerous. So the system prioritizes closest threat, fastest threat, most dangerous trajectory, and once that priority is set, the Apache does not wait, because now it knows exactly what to hit and where to hit it. But identifying the target is only half the battle, because the next step happens in seconds. Seeing the target is one thing, destroying it before it reacts is something else. This is where the Apache becomes lethal. Because once a target is locked, there is no long delay, no hesitation. The system moves fast. Detection, right arrow, decision, right arrow, strike. And each step happens in seconds. Now here's the key question. How does one helicopter deal with different types of threats at the same time? The answer is simple. It does not rely on one weapon. It chooses the right weapon for the right target. For precision strikes, there is the AGM-114 Hellfire. This missile is designed to hit exactly where it is aimed. No waste, no guesswork. Once launched, it tracks the target and delivers a direct hit, perfect for fast boats or high-value targets that must be eliminated instantly. But what if there are multiple targets? What if speed matters more than precision? That's where the Apache switches approach. Under its nose, it carries a powerful weapon, the M230 chain gun. This gun fires rapidly. Hundreds of rounds per minute. It does not wait. It sweeps across targets, shredding drones, damaging boats, breaking attacks before they fully develop. And then there are rockets. Less precise but highly effective, used when multiple threats appear or when an area needs to be suppressed quickly. So now the Apache has options: missile for accuracy, gun for speed, rockets for coverage, and the pilot chooses in real time. No delay, no reset. This creates something powerful: continuous engagement. One target is hit, the system shifts, another target is engaged immediately. And this is why the timing matters. Because when the Apache starts firing, the window for the enemy closes fast. But even with this firepower, there is one more reason it dominates. It does not fight like other aircraft, it fights close to the ground. Most aircraft fight from a distance. They stay high. They strike from far away, and they leave quickly. But the Apache does the opposite. It comes closer, much closer, because its advantage is not just firepower, it is position. The Apache flies low, sometimes just above the ground or water. This is called terrain-hugging flight, and it changes everything. At low altitude, the Apache becomes harder to detect. Radar has less time to react. Targets have less warning, and that creates surprise. Now think about fast boats. They rely on speed. They move quickly across the surface, trying to close distance before being stopped. But when the Apache is already low, already near their level, that advantage disappears, because now the helicopter is not chasing from above. It is intercepting directly. The same applies to drones. Many drones fly low to avoid detection. They try to stay under radar coverage, to blend into the environment. But the Apache operates in that same space. It meets them where they are, and that creates a direct engagement zone. No delay, no altitude gap, just immediate contact. But there is another layer: survivability. Because flying low is dangerous. There is always a risk of ground fire, unexpected threats, close-range attacks, so the Apache is built to handle that. It has armor, protection systems, countermeasures against heat-seeking missiles, which means it can stay in the fight longer. And that matters because this is not a one-strike system. It is persistent, it stays, it patrols, it keeps hunting. And over time, that pressure builds. Because once the Apache controls low altitude, small threats lose their advantage. They can no longer hide, they can no longer move freely. And that leads to the final shift. Because once movement is controlled, the battlefield itself begins to change. At this stage, something changes, not just in the fight but in the entire battlefield. Because once the Apache starts controlling the environment, movement becomes restricted. Fast boats can no longer rush freely. Drones can no longer operate unnoticed. Every movement carries risk. And that changes behavior. Attacks become slower, decisions become cautious. Opportunities begin to disappear. This is the real impact, not just destruction but control. Because the Apache does more than eliminate targets, it removes confidence. And without confidence, even a large number of threats becomes less effective. Now think about the chain reaction. One drone is destroyed, then another. Then a fast boat is intercepted before it reaches range. At first, these are just individual events, but over time they add up, and the pattern becomes clear. Every attempt is being stopped, every movement is being tracked, every threat is being neutralized, and that creates pressure. Because now the opposing side must adapt, change tactics, reduce activity, or risk losing everything it sends into the fight. And this is where control becomes complete. Not because every threat is gone, but because every threat is expected and countered. Which means the system stabilizes again, movement resumes, routes reopen, confidence slowly returns, and all of this happens because of one key advantage: speed, the ability to detect quickly, decide instantly, and strike without delay. That is what defines modern combat, not size, not numbers, but how fast you can act before the other side even reacts. Because in the end, the Apache is not just a weapon, it is a system that hunts, tracks, and eliminates threats continuously. And once that system is in place, very few targets survive for long.